Welcome to the Once and Future Authors podcast. I'm Stephanie, and I'm so delighted to be joined, well, not right next door to me, but on screen he will be, thank goodness. Jan Domagala is joining me from across the pond in Britain. He's released a new book called Ronin, and we're here to talk to him about the book, and I believe there are probably 9 more to come, so we have plenty to talk about. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thrilled to have you. And anytime I can get that lovely British accent on my show, I'm just thrilled. Now, you must tell me, I've heard that they actually, in Britain, find the American accent endearing, and we, of course, here find the British accent endearing. Is that true?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I think the Americans like the English accent a little bit more. I don't know why, because I find the American accent really, really nice. I like the variance in as you go through the country, how it varies.
Now it's
from
funny.
State to state.
Last night I was watching, there's a new hit show here in America called Bridgerton, and it's all sorts of, British gossip and intrigue. I guess you don't get those shows there, because why would you? We just want to hear that British accent some more.
No, it's on Netflix at the minute, I think.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, we get it over here. It's a bit like Downton Abbey, I suppose. I don't know. I've never seen it.
I've heard it called, it's kind of like Downton Abbey meets Desperate Housewives.
Yes, yeah. I've heard it's a bit racy.
It is quite racy, and I always wonder if shows like that make a hit over on your end of the pond just because we watch it for the British accent.
I can't comment on that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you for joining me, and please tell me a little bit, how did you get your start writing? When did you start? Were you like 5 years old and you just had
I've always been creative. I was into comic books when I was school age, and that sort of progressed. I used to like to try and do my own, and then that progressed into writing because I could tell the story quicker through writing it rather than drawing each panel and stuff like that.
Also, I didn't know that.
Not many people do. I'm a little bit embarrassed about it, to be honest with you, because I don't know why. Because comic books have become a huge thing now. But when I was growing up, it was I don't know. It was frowned upon. It wasn't classed as the art form as it is nowadays. I always wanted to be an illustrator in comics, but I hadn't got the talent. Basically, I hadn't got the talent, so I chose writing rather than to do that. I've always been sort of scribbling down stories, flitting from one idea to the next. And I think Ronin came about because I tried one or two other books, one or two other stories previously to this one, and I was trying to find a good science fiction story in the library to read, and nothing sort of floated my boat. And what I was looking for was something like Die Hard mixed with Total Recall or something like that, and a good action film on the page with a lot of sci-fi in it. So I thought, well, if nobody's writing that sort of stuff, I might as well do it myself. So I thought, well, I'll give it a go. So that's what I did.
That's fantastic. I've heard that said before, write the book that you wish you could read.
That's right, yeah. Well, that's what made me do it, because I'd seen that quote by a writer. I can't remember who said that first, but I remember reading that, and I thought, well, why not try it and have a go?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Your main protagonist, Kurt Stryder.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about Kurt, and is he like your alter ego? Is he?
I wish. I wish. I try to base all my main characters on the romantic side of me, what I'd like to be, what I wish I was. But sadly, no, I'm not quite as good looking as him. I'm not as talented or as tall. He's the person I wish I was.
So you're living vicariously through your books.
Very much so, yes, very much so. I I read somewhere that somebody said, write what you know. And I thought, well, how's that? I can't do that because I'm setting my books 25th century in space. I mean, what do I know about that? So, you write from your imagination, I think.
Yes. Well, that's very true. But the fact that your main character is what you kind of want to emulate is writing what you know, pulling from characteristics that you know and respect or envy even in other people.
Very much respect. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, because Kurt is the kind of person who will always do what's right, no matter what the cost. No matter what the cost to himself, he will do what he thinks is the right thing. Nice. There's a quote in the book that his father, what drove him to do what he does, his father once told him that for evil to triumph, and this is one of my favorite quotes, for evil to triumph, all that is required is for good men to do nothing. So he chose to do something.
Nice. Very, very nice. So tell me a little bit about what goes on in the book without giving away any spoilers, but just to get our would-be readers interested.
Well, we begin the book with Kurt as the sole survivor of a program that he was told would revolutionize the military and hopefully prevent any future conflict. Mm-hmm. That was why he volunteered for the program. As the book unfolds, you'll learn that that's not quite the case. That the program is successful and can be turned into militaristic goals. So this is where the dilemma comes for him. He has to make a decision. Does he keep what he knows about the program being a success to himself, mm-hmm. or does he become a pawn of the government and continue the very thing that he's fought all his life against, which is people fighting and dying, basically. I mean, he joined the army, he joined the military so that people wouldn't have to die, to protect and serve.
Right. Are you a military man yourself?
No, unfortunately, no. I once, when I was at school, I wanted to become a physiotherapist in the army, but my father, who had served he was in the Second World War. He was a Polish person who was conscripted into he was forced to join the German army, and then he deserted. He came over with a lot of Polish people. He would not let me join the army because he knew all the experiences he'd gone through during the war.
Okay, so that part of the book you didn't get to draw on personal experience in the army.
No, unfortunately.
So tell me a little bit about the 25th century. Are we going to like it?
Well, I've tried to keep the science to a minimum. I've tried to keep the time as recognizable as possible so that people don't get lost in too much detail. The problem I had with a lot of science fiction books this is part and parcel of what becomes a science fiction novel, is the world building. I found that terribly boring. And I'll probably get vilified for saying that, but a lot of people like science fiction because of the world building, economic structure, the climate and all that. What I wanted to do was just delve straight into the action and have the background as a background, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense, but I am curious. Like you said, many people who are writing futuristic science fiction, the whole point was the world building, and they love that, and that's where their theme even developed from. Why, since that is not part of your interest, and that's perfectly fine, why did you decide to go for futuristic 25th century as opposed to...
This is quite interesting, actually, because it's the reason I chose to set it in the future was I tried to write a modern day thriller. And there was a lot of research on locations and present day tech and all that sort of stuff. And I found it extremely difficult to get the details right. So I thought, why not make it up? Because if you set it on a future planet, no one can say, well, that doesn't go there. That's not right there, it's, you know, I'm the person who says that's correct, and no one can argue with me. So I chose the easy route, to be honest with you. And the futuristic aspect of it is unavoidable because you have to have, you know, technology has got to be advanced. So one of the few things I have put in that I'm quite proud of, actually, and I've seen, I've done a little bit of research on it, actually, called the neural interface, which connects you to computers and phones, and so you don't have to have handheld devices. I've got a feeling that's going to come pretty soon in the future anyway.
Wow. Okay. So well, yeah, I like your method there. No one can argue with you about being wrong.
Well, that's what I thought anyway.
What did you find most difficult about writing about, since world building is not, you know, something that interests you, but even though you say nobody could tell me I was wrong, you still have to be consistent. Physics still has to work the same way throughout your whole book, and you have to. Do you have flashcards, whiteboard? How do you keep things straight in your head when you're writing?
This is something that's bothered, well, not bothered me, but it's amazed me, because how I write is, people say that there's two sorts of writers. There's a plotter and a pantser. I'm very much the second, the pantser. I get an idea and I sit down and I start to write, and then I let my characters take me where they want to go, basically, and then see how the story develops. Many times I'll go back and change things because, you know, where it's gone doesn't sort of tie in with what's gone on in the past. So I'll have to change that a little bit. But no, I don't use flashcards. Sometimes I'll take notes so that I don't forget a certain thing that's relevant to a story, or a certain detail. But no, I just sort of keep it all stored.
Wow, that's a lot.
I know, it's scary. Scary. You don't want to go up there. No, you don't want. Don't want to spend 5 minutes in my brain.
Now, as a pantser, I've heard people say that their characters just kind of, they'll be sitting there typing and they do what they want to do. Have you ever been completely surprised by something one of your characters has done?
Yes. I have, actually, yeah, because I once tried to write a book with plotting it out first, and what I did, I got the basic idea of the story, and I broke it down into chapters, and then I would lay out each chapter what was going to happen, and when I got to the end, I couldn't write the book because I felt like I'd done the work, and the book was sort of, the idea was laid out and I'd finished it. And I knew full well that once I started writing the first chapter, conversations would occur where would change the direction of the story. And to keep that on track through, say, a 20 chapter story I just couldn't do it, because it would veer off too many times because of the conversations that certain characters have, the interactions. So that's why I chose to be a pantser.
So you actually made the decision. That's fascinating, because I've never ever heard an author say, like, there were my choices and I chose pantser. That's
well, yeah, no, that's the way I definitely chose that way, because I cannot keep to a set routine when writing a story, because things develop and change and mutate, and so you have to go with, well, I have to go with the direction that the characters take me, or the story goes.
Interesting. And I'm sure our plotters out there would beg to differ, but that's why, you know, I always say to people, you have to write the way you write. There's no
yes, yeah. I would never say that my way is the only way.
Right.
Whatever works for you is the best way for you. So if somebody would prefer to plot something down and put every minuscule detail down and then go back and write a story from that framework, then that's fine. You know, if it's good for them, it's good. But I just can't do that.
I'm so glad you said that, because that gives a huge amount of permission to people. I see authors on message boards and all sorts of places all the time. Oh, I heard I'm supposed to make a big outline first.
Yeah.
And I'll always want to say, don't believe everything you've heard.
No.
There's a million authors out there, and here I am sitting with a very successful science fiction author, and that's not the way he works. And it works for him, and that's all that matters.
Well, I've written 11 books now. Well, no,
exactly.
sorry, 17 books now, like that. So
that's why I said a very successful science fiction author, and it's working for you.
Yeah,
absolutely working for you. So thank you for that, because that is for all of those pantsers. If it's half of the writers out there, new writers, especially at the beginning, think, oh, I'm supposed to follow a specific set of steps.
Yeah. No, if whatever works for you, whatever works.
Now, as a pantser, does that mean that sometimes you can't sleep at night because your characters are talking in your head?
Tell me about it. Yeah, quite often. I've lost count of the times that I've woken up with an idea, or gone to bed and an idea has popped into my head, and I've had to either get up and write it down, or get up and start get on the laptop. I would say, this one piece of advice I would give to any writer starting out, or even if they're experienced, keep a notebook and a pen by your bedside. So if you have an idea, just write it down, because if you get up in the morning and you think, oh, now what was I thinking about? Many times it'll be gone. You'll forget.
That's a great idea. Keeping a notebook with you always. You don't want to lose it. Fleeting.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, do you write on a laptop, the good old-fashioned way with a pen? Do you dictate your books into a microphone? How do you do it?
Well, when I started, what I used to do was I used to write it longhand, and then I would class that as my first draft, and then I would put it onto a laptop, and that would be my second draft, and then I would send it to the editor. But now I just straight onto the laptop. I cut out the first section completely, and
you got writer's cramp.
Well, as age grabs your grip on the pen isn't what it used to be.
Well, also you do get spoiled. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. Getting to copy and paste or move things around or things.
That's true. Yeah. Plus, it's quicker. It's much quicker.
You can type that fast?
No. I just mean that you've cut out one section, one.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
One stage by writing it down, and sometimes I can't even read my own writing, so just to take ages.
Are you a good typist? Do you type with all 10 fingers?
A good 3 or 4 of them, yeah. I wouldn't say all 10.
Yeah, I'm a 2-finger myself, I must admit.
I tend to use my thumbs and possibly 2 or 3 fingers.
Yeah, that's probably my thumbs for the space bar and these 2 fingers.
Yeah. Yeah, I've gotten better the more I do. When I first started, I was probably 1 finger.
17 books later, I would think that you could use maybe even 4 fingers.
Well, yeah, I'm getting there.
Now, you write exclusively in the science fiction genre. Have you ever? No, you've written other things. Tell us.
Yeah, I've written 6 books in 2 different series.
Okay.
One's like how can I describe it? Sort of a James Bond type series, and then the other one, I don't know if you know of James Rollins or Steve Berry or people like that.
Sure. Oh my goodness. My husband is a huge Steve Berry fan.
Really?
Oh,
good. I've written 3 books in a series called the Atlas Force series that are similar in vein to that genre.
Okay. Oh, well, I have a beta reader for you right here. My husband eats up those Steve Berry books.
Yeah. I don't do the historical aspect, but I do the technical aspect.
Gotcha.
A bit like a I suppose you could call it a techno thriller.
Techno thriller. Fantastic. Are there any genres out there that you kind of look longingly and say, I'd like to try that?
I once thought I might try the horror genre.
Really?
But excuse me, I was a bit worried in case it might keep me up at night.
Oh, yeah, well. I understand that thought, because when I read horror, it keeps me up at night.
Well, I used to read horror exclusively at one point. I devoured everything that Dean Koontz wrote.
Mm-hmm.
If there was any writer I would like to be more like, it's Dean Koontz.
Really? What about
Yes.
Koontz do you like?
He's multi-genre. And his use of language is beautiful. I just wish I could tap into something like that.
No.
His action scenes are visceral. That when he writes horror, they grab you, and there's always that human element in it as well. He always makes. Sometimes he'll make you cry because he's so emotional. He does everything. I just wish I was more like him.
Oh, that's fabulous. Do you like to read as well as write?
Oh yeah, I've always got 2 or 3 books on the go.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. I love to
read Dean Koontz. Who else do you like to read?
James Rollins is one of my
Okay.
favorites. Jack Higgins. Those are 2 of my favorites. Clive Cussler, who unfortunately passed last year, didn't he?
Yes.
That genre is the main genre that I stick to at the moment. I lost touch with Dean Koontz a while ago. For some reason, I can't think why. I think it was because I got too emotionally involved, and I just wanted something a bit lighter. Matthew Riley is another favourite of mine. In fact, it was a book by Matthew Riley that set me on the path to writing Ronin.
Really?
Yes. I was in the library one day and I was looking for a book, and nothing. I couldn't find anything that really grabbed my attention. And I was on the way out through the door. And you know the carousels that have the paperbacks on?
Sure.
I saw one and it said Ice Station. And I can remember reading Ice Station Zebra by Alistair MacLean and absolutely loving that book. So I thought, oh, I'll have a look and see what this is. I wonder if it's a reworking or if something along those lines. So I picked it up, looked at it, and I thought, do you know what? That sounds really good. I went home and I devoured it in 3 days. And I thought, wow, that's the kind of book I want to write. So I sat down and I thought, go for it.
Fantastic. So if you have a young protege who wants to follow in your footsteps, the way you want to follow in some of these other authors' footsteps, what about your writing are you hoping that they will take away, maybe emulate? What are you most proud of?
Oh, what am I most proud of? Well, funnily enough, the book I'm most proud of is the 3rd book in the Atmosphere series.
Okay.
Because that's the most personal book for me.
Right.
That's the one book that I sort of drew from experience. But in the sci-fi books, I think do you know what? You've got me now. I don't know what to say here. I was a bit stuck for words.
Instead of thinking in terms of a book, is there something about your writing or your style or your strategy that you would like to pass on to those young writers out there?
Strategy, I'd just find something that works for you. If plotting out works, do it that way. If being a pantser works, then do it that way. Mainly find a subject that you want to write about. Always do your best work, even if it means going back and rewriting it. Even if it means scrapping it and starting from scratch, which I've done several times. Just keep going and just write.
Fantastic. Wise words. Absolutely wise words.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for joining us. I hope that all of our viewers grab a copy of Ronin. And by the way, there are like 9 more to come in this series, so you will get hooked. That is for sure. Plus a whole lot of other books from our author here. So read, write, get inspired, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure.